go. Oh, I'm gonna move this out of the way so Zach can't see that. Or no, he can still see it no matter where it is. I think if I bring it up to the top here, yes, there we go. It'll disappear. Yep, now it's back there because I went, yay. So if I go way slowly, I don't know. Zach, you might have to just see that appear there all the time. Okay. So last time we started work on our light out. So if I go back to here, we've got a 5x5 grid. I've included the files for this, beginning files in case you don't have them handy. 5x5 grid of buttons that we can click. They're all dark right now. And if I click one, it gives me the ID, row 1, column 1, row 2, column 3, row 5, column 5. So that's all working. So now we want to get some interaction with this. So is everyone else is working like that? You all have that? Yeah, if not, speak now. No? Okay, so we've got one not working. I want to review how we do this quick before I get there. So I'm going to go back to my lights out JavaScript. And what we did is we set lights as an array, and then we created in lights an array of objects. So we're doing our objects. So each lights, whatever, will have a call1, call2, call3, call4, call5 call that we have there. So when we click our function, it's going to pass a row and a column. And then we're going to switch on the columns for C1 equals col1, or switch column case 1, column num is C1, then we're going to alert on the row num plus col1. And that way, and then, yeah, so based on whatever one we grab, we're going to do that. Now, Caden, I don't see an alert down here at all. So get rid of that alert, see if that cleans up your problem for you. And then just a reminder on switch, we have our cases. We always have a default at the end, just in case something goes wrong in a way we didn't expect, and it'll say, oops, so we can say, oh, there's something wrong with that switch, and we can check that. That didn't fix it for you? Okay, let me take a look. I forgot I was gonna say that Zach had been detained by the FBI for trying to hack in places he shouldn't be, so he may not be back in class again. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so we've got everything working to that point where if we click on one, it alerts on it. Now instead of alerting on it, we want to turn it on. How we're going to turn it on is if we look at our HTML down to our styles near the bottom. Currently we got the background color of our input to be black. Now our inputs are R5, C5, so it's our row and our columns. So instead we're going to change it. If we change it to white, it will just like not be there. So let's make it a more fun color. So let's do like green or something like that. So I'm going to go to my JavaScript. And now I've got all these alerts. Boom, boom, boom. I could also do the change the colors all the same, but I want to just have one function change the color so I can change everything in one place. So I'm going to go to the end of my JS, and I'm going to create a new function. And I'm going to call this function turn light on. I'm really going to use my case here. So going to put my parentheses, my curly brackets, so everything's going to go inside the curly brackets for that function. Now when I turn a light on, if I look at my HTML, where I'm going to turn my light on has an ID. I want to pass it that ID number. So we can build that ID up earlier. So if I go back here, we got two options. We can build that ID light up here. I mean, before we do all this with our case, or we can build that ID light up inside of our function. I'm gonna build it up inside of our function. So what I'm gonna do is let's go up. Let's take case 1. I'm going to just comment out the alert. We won't need the alert anymore. And I'm going to call a function turn light on.
Are you guys computer science?
Yes, we are.
Oh, well, do your work and ignore me. Taking pictures.
They can't work, the lights are on.
Just pretending.
Okay, so we got a function turn light on. We're going to call that function. But we're going to pass it some parameters. First thing we're going to pass is our row num. So we're going to pass row num. You can leave the light on if you want while you take that. Yeah. Okay, we're going to pass it row num. And then we've already just created col num to be C1 instead of just our col. So let's pass it col num. Like that. Or no, we don't want row num. I was wrong. You know what we did with our row num? We did a row -1. Let's just do row. We want to pass it the row that we got here, plus our col num, which we created with our C1. So inside the turn lights, we're going to take our row and turn it into our R1 or R2 or R3. But we don't have to worry about that because of what we passed here. So we got turn light on, row, col num. Now, everyone got that? I'm going to go down to my turn lights on inside the parentheses. I want to capture those. A lot of times people can't capture parameters just with single. I'm going to call rows R and column C. I'm just going to capture it as R and C. So our row will be passed as R, our column will be passed as C. Okay, so now out of this I want to build our ID that we're going to look for. So I'm going to say let, what should we call this? I think we can use ID. I don't think it's saved for anything. Let ID equal. And then I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do is start with an R. So I'm going to say R for our row num plus, I like to put spaces in there. You do not have to, but it makes it easier to read. Plus row, which will be our 1 through 5, plus C, which will be our C1 through C4, which we've already defined as col num, which we're passing. And then semicolon, or semicolon. Didn't sound right. So now I set an ID equal to our new ID. Now I'm going to go to here, I'm going to go document. So we're going to our page. Dot get, this one should be stuck in your head, get element by ID. And our ID is going to be that variable we just created, ID dot style dot, I've got to look this one up quick. You can't do, normally you'd think you could do background dash color, which matches our CSS here, background dash color, but that's not always true. So I don't have these memorized, so what should I do?
It's background color
with no dash. Oh, you looked it up already. or we've done it before. Okay, so if you look it up on Google, or if you remember it, if you have a Silas in the room who can tell you, it's background color, no dash. So unfortunately, JavaScript doesn't use the exact same formatting as CSS.
My autocomplete does what, a capital C for the color?
Yes. My Silas is telling me yes. There we go. Yeah, that's true. Your autocomplete. Let's see what my autocomplete does. Background. Hey, look at that. There you go. That's why autocomplete is nice. You don't have to remember everything. Equals. And I'm just going to set mine to green. You can set yours to a color you like. You can do your RGB color if you want. That means that you can, instead of doing green, you can, here, I'm going to put it in a comment. It's like pound RGB. So if I wanted to do green, pure green and RGB, it'd be red, green, blue. So full green, 0 red, 0 green, or 0 blue, all red. I could do it that way too. But here I can just use green. I'll use their green. But if you want to vary that color, you can go online, look for hexadecimal colors or web colors. and it'll give you that number you can put in there, and you can get the exact color you want on your screen. Okay, so that should change it to green. So now, right now, it only works on column 1 on any one we press. So go ahead and save that and try it and see if it works, or see if there's, like normal, we have to debug something. That means any box you click on in the first column should turn green if you click on it.
It says row is not defined at 46.
At 46, so go to your line 46. What is there? Is that, are you the same as me?
46 should be the same.
Oh, row, Why? Because that should be R. It should match R. Match our parameter. Sorry, that was my mistake. I'm taking this parameter R, putting it in there, this parameter C, putting it in there. So I did that on purpose just to see if you were listening. So okay. So if I Control S, let's go over here, refresh. Any first one, boom, green, 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 green. Excellent. Okay, so that's a good start.
Only row 1, column 1 turns green.
What's that?
Only row 1, column 1 turns green.
Right. The others give you an alert.
Oh wait, never mind.
So
All of row 1 is green.
all of row 1 should give you green. Yep. So now all we have to do is take this line and apply it to the others. In fact, we don't even have to do it here. This would be a waste. We're going to do the exact same thing for every one of them. So if I go in here and I delete that, I cut it, and if I go in after my switch case and paste it in here, I only have to do it once instead of calling it every single time. So I'm just going to go in and comment out my alerts, because otherwise that'll bug the bejeebers out of me. Okay, so they're all commented out. And then after my switch, here's my switch here. I'll reduce the size a little bit so you can see. So after my switch, then I'm going to do my turn light on, because we define column num here, and row is already defined from up here. So otherwise we'd have the same code over and over again. If we'd made some change in that code, then we'd have to go change all of them. So it's right there. So I'm going to crank that back up again so you can see okay. Does that make sense? Did I lose anyone? No? Now if you save it and refresh, now all of the boxes should be able to be turned green by clicking on them. Refresh. So now we can go boom, 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 boom. There we go. Hey. Or I wonder if I can do it here. Refresh. Boom, 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 boom. Is that how you do it? Yep. Is there any Minecraft people in here? So yeah, all yours, you probably want to light them all green anyway, just to make sure that we don't have an error in there somewhere. Cool. So all mine turn green. Yay. Okay, so that's a start. Now we can turn one on when we click on it. Now, if we click on it and it's on already, we want to turn it off. Correct? So we're going to want to track whether a light is on or if it's off. So let's go back to our code. Now we already track the lights as an array of objects so that we can get our row num, column num. And I wonder if we even need that. Yeah, I didn't do it how I should have. That's right. Yeah, we may not. I just used the object up here, but we may not need it. So, okay, that's right. We'll leave it alone for right now. So, what we want to do is we want to track whether whether or not an array, or whether or not a light is off or on to begin with. So, what we're going to do is we're going to need a variable. So we got lights as an array. So, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want a couple. We're going to want a here, or no, I won't do that because he can't see it. Oh, what's this? There we go. I don't have my stylus with, but so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to track whether lights are off or on. So how we can do that is we can have an array of arrays, and 0 can be off, or we can do off and on. We can do the letters. So what we're going to have is we're going to have an array of our rows. The array will be our rows, and then in each row we'll have an array of our columns. And I write really horridly with the mouse, so maybe that wasn't even worth it. But so what we're going to do is we're going to create an array of arrays. So let's go up here under our first variable. Let's create a new variable. Let's call it cols on, or no, rows on, sorry. Rows on equal new array. Can we do it that way? I'm just thinking, are we going to need yeah, I don't think I can I can't use an array like that, 2 new arrays, or can I? Well, we got an array and then we got objects, lights. Maybe we can, let's use our existing, sorry, I should have thought that out more. Let's use our existing array of objects as our on or off. So we got our object with our col1, col2, col3, col4, col5, which actually will have our entire ID in there, so we may use that anyway. Coming up, I should have probably used that down here, but that's right. So let's, within our object, I'm going to put in a comma after my last col5 equals our whatever. And I'm going to say, I'm going to call the first one col1 on. Kind of looks like Colin. Oops. Col1 on, colon, and I'm going to set it to off. And I'm going to make a comma. I'm going to paste this, oops, 4 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to set col2 on, col3 on, col4 on, oops, not 14, 4 on, and col5 on. The last one I'm going to remove the comma so that I don't confuse the systems, because that's the last part of our object. So we're going to use this object to tell whether the light is on for each column based on the lights array and the column, col on. So okay, so now when we click a light, turn on a light, we're going to pass a row and a column. So the first thing we're going to want to do actually before we even set this is we're going to want to check and see if the light's on already. So what I'm going to do is based on my row and column, I'm going to want to do a kind of a switch case of what we got earlier. So let's go here. Here, I'm going to actually let row and column ID be there because I think we're going to use that for off and on. So I'm going to basically go and see if the light's on. So I'm going to say, okay, we got our row. We almost need a row -1, but that's all right. Let's go. Let's set a variable. Sorry, I got to think for a second. We're going to grab our row. We're going to put that into our array of lights. And then based on our switch, we're going to get our call 1 on, call 2 on, call 3 on. So actually, I don't need to do that. So let's do a switch. Let's go switch. I give myself a little more room. We're going to switch on C, the column that we passed. Switch uses curly brackets, which everything goes in between. Now we know that our C is passing our column, which will be C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. So we're going to do case C1. I think we got to put that in quotes. Let's try that. C1 colon. Then once we're done with C1, we're going to have a break in there. Now what we're actually going to do in C1 is we're going to check and see if the light is on or off. So in order to track whether the light is on or off, now we're going to have to go do our variable. So let's go let light. Here, let's try not to use the same variables over and over so we get them all. Let's say let light on equal. And right now I'm just going to default to off. Let light on equal off, because that's what we're defaulting on. So case C1. So now we're going to set light on based on, we're going to set light on to whatever CL1 on is, or CL2 1 on, or 2 on is, and so we're going to look at CL1 on. So I'm going to say light on equals, and then we're going to go to our lights array, which is up here. So our lights array, lights, and I think I can do it like this. Our R is going to be 1 too big, so I'm going to have to do R minus 1, but I think I can do it just like that in there. Dot call 1 on. So that's going to set light on to lights R1 call on, so which is currently off. So that'll tell us whether or not the light's on or off. So then I'm going to copy my case and through my break. I'm going to paste it 4 more times. I'm going to do C2, call 2 on, C3, call 3 on, C4, call 4 on, C5, call 5 on. Then at the end of the break, we want to have our default. And our default is just going to be light on equals, let's just say burned out. That'll be a little clue for us that something's going on. Hopefully we should never set light on to burned out, but that's a clue that, oh, we did some coding wrong and somehow we got a number other than C1 through C5. In fact, it might work right now if we didn't need the quotes around C1. If it didn't like that, then it might show us lights on. We can test this. How should we test this? Let's use an alert. Let's go alert, light on. Now, light on should always be off, so it doesn't really do anything. The only thing it will tell us is if we click on it and it says burned out. That means that there's probably something wrong with my case and I shouldn't have put quotes around C1, C2, C3, but I'm pretty sure the quotes are supposed to be there. So if you save it and test it, your light will still turn green, but hopefully it'll always say off. and never say burned out.
Light is not defined.
Light 60. Should be light on and lights. Is that what's going on? Yeah, that's why. Poor choice of variables here. All the variables are very similar to each other. So I tried to make them as descriptive as possible, but if you just use plain old-fashioned variables when variables could only be like 8 characters long and they didn't necessarily name them anything, they'd use X, Y, A, B, C.
Says light on is not defined.
Light on. Okay, so look up here, check your light on here, and make sure it's spelt the same as let light on here. At the top, inside your function turn light on, we have let light on equal off. Make sure light on here is spelt the same as here, here, here. Make sure they're all the same, including in your alert. Let me save mine, make sure I'm not having the same error. Shift, refresh, boom, off. Off.
I was using capital L's in 2 instances.
Ah, okay, yes, see, that's an annoying thing about JavaScript. It is case sensitive, so okay, everyone else working okay? You got that? Nice thing about Zach is he can just pause the video if he's having problems. Yes, I did turn the video back on and he didn't lose it. I did a video for chemistry last night and I thought I paused the video at the end and I was looking up some stuff and then about 3 minutes later I'm like, oh, video's done. I forgot to do that, and off they went. So okay, so now we got the ability to tell whether the light's off or on. So when we click on a light, we're going to want to do something different based on whether this light on is on or off. So we're going to get it. So I'm going to remove our alert. So we tested it. But now, if the light is off, I want to turn it on. So I'm going to do an if here. If light on equals off. So if the light's off, then I want to do the set it to green. Now I made an error on purpose. Anyone catch it?
Backwards curly bracket.
Oh, I didn't do that one on purpose. Sorry. I made an error on purpose and one not on purpose. There we go. I just deleted the wrong curly bracket. There we go. Okay. Need a double equals. So make sure you use that double equals. Otherwise, you're just going to set it to off and it will always be true and it will always run. So if light off is off already, we're going to set the light to green. Otherwise, so we're going to do an else here. Else, it must be on. We're going to, here, why am I typing that? I'm going to go ahead and copy all this. I'm going to paste it in here. And I change my color to black. Or if you want to use hexadecimal colors, pound 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And some of you may say, oh, you only need to put 3 zeros in there. If you do, then you're already good on your cascading style sheets. Else we're going to set it to black. Now this isn't everything yet. This will only ever turn a light on still. Any idea why? Because when we look to see if it's off or not, we check what's already in the object, but we never change it. So we never physically change what it's going to be. So what we should do is we know when we check it here that we're changing it. So after we set light on equal to lights r minus 1 dot col 1 on, I'm going to, or no, just a second. Yeah, I've got to do it in here. So I think I'm going to have to do an if in here as well. If same thing. Light on equals off. Then I want, here, I'll copy this. Lights R-1, call1 on. Equals on. So first thing I do is I get it. So if it's off, I've got it. If it's on, I've got it. Then I say if light on equals off, which is what I grabbed, then I'm going to change it to on. I'm going to do an else here and do the exact same thing, but put it back to off. Now there is a more straightforward way to do this. I would ask you to figure that out on your own later if you wanted to, but because what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to copy this if-else statement. And I'm going to have to paste it in each of my cases. So I'm actually reusing code. I'm doing the same thing 5 different times. There is a better way to do this if you used another function, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep it this way to keep us thinking straightforward. So if lights on is off, then it's going to turn it on. If lights on is off, it's going to, or on, it's going to turn it off. If you save that and try it now, you should be able to turn the lights on and off.
No need to change to like call 2 on, call 3 on.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, go through here once you do your paste. Otherwise, yeah, you'll just change call 1 off or on. 3, 4, 5, 5. Glad you guys noticed stuff like that. It means that you're understanding, which is good. Okay, so now you should be able to hopefully turn all the lights off or on. At this point, we'll do a little debugging if you can't do it. Let me go try it myself before I shut down Zach here for a minute. Okay, nothing. So let's see what I got for inspect element, console. Private fields are not currently supported. I don't know about that. Line 103. Let me go look at my line 103. Line 103. Document.get element by ID style background color equals. Does it not like my pound? It may not like my pound. Let's try something once. Let's go black. I'm forgetting pound might be a special character for this. So let's see, save. I saved it. Let's go here. Shift refresh. Green, off, on, off, on, off. Yeah, so I didn't like my pound 000 and I accidentally turned on Chrome. But let's see.
Well, they turn yellow.
What's that?
They turn yellow.
It turned yellow?
Or they click and turn yellow.
Yep, and then it should turn back to black again when you unclick it. So both should work for you. I'm going to pause Zach because we're already getting long. We're 33 minutes. Okay, so that's working. So we've got on-off capabilities throughout it. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the game. If we start with a black screen, the idea is going to be able to turn on every single light. Well, the way it is now, that'd be easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can do it in 25 moves. But what I want to do is if I click on a space, I want to turn that space on or off. And I want to turn the ones above and below on or off, toggle them on or off based on what I've clicked on. So I want to, when I click on a light, I want to check this one, turn it on and off. Then I want to check the one above it, below it, to the right and to the left, and toggle those as well from on to off or off to on. And there'll be times when like you'll have, I'll click here, this will turn this one off, this will turn this one off, but it'll also turn these 3 on. So does that make sense? So the trick then is to light up the whole board just by clicking, and some things are almost impossible. Usually what they give you is they give you certain patterns to work with, and then that makes it a little bit easier. So turn them all off or turn them all on. So when we do it, what we want to do is once we turn a light on, we want to check the other lights. So if we think about it, when we call turn light on, we pass it row and column, right? And that goes through and checks if it's off or on already and does it. So all we have to do when we check turn light on, when we call it here, is we also need to call it for the one above, the one below, the one to the right, and the one to the left. So this is here. Let's put a little comment in here. Let's comment this one and called clicked. I can't type. Clicked light. Okay, so that's our clicked light. Next, we're going to want to say, let's just put in a comment and let's say above light. So we want to check and see what's going on above. So that means that we're going to want to call this with a smaller row, right? Row one less. Now that's fine except for when. So we could just say, we could just do this. We could say turn, or here, yeah, turn light on, row -1, comma, column. And that would probably work. If we do that, that'll work. But when's the one time it won't work? Yeah, when I spelt it wrong. But when won't this work? When might this cause us problems? What happens if we're on row 1 and we click on this? It's going to check row 0, which doesn't exist. Because actually row 0 is that, but later on we check the, we subtract 1 from R to get it. So we want to surround this by an if. First of all, it's probably not a good idea to pass a parameter this way. It may not work for you. So the first thing we should do is we should define a variable. Let row above I gotta turn straight. I just can't type anymore. Let row above equal row -1. So now we got a row above. So instead of having row -1, which may not work, like I said, I don't think parameters will accept that kind of thing. Let's see, row above. I gotta learn to use I can't think anymore. Autocomplete work for me. So now, if we don't want to do this for row 0, what's the only thing we have to do? What do we have to do before we call turn lights on? We just have to check if row above, oops, I forgot my parentheses. Blood sugars must be running low. Row above is, we'll say greater than 0. We could say not equal to 0. If we say greater than 0, it gives us a little more leeway for errors that might cause row to suddenly be -1, -2, and still break things. So at least that avoids some of that. Chances are it should never be less than 1, or it should never be less than 1. So if we're above row, above light, we let row above equal row -1, and if row above is greater than 0, then we call that 1. So now you can save that and view it and see if it'll affect the row above it. Good. And check it too, where one's on and one's off, and you'll see that it should toggle both ways. So shift refresh, boom. Hey, now if I go here, hey, that one's on, off. That one's off, on. That one's off, on. That one's on. Oh, that's right, it doesn't do below yet. Like, oh, there's an error, but. So, okay, so that works for everyone? Good. How do we do row below? Actually, we're almost out of time. I'm going to save row below. So here, we're going to go right here. We're going to add a comment. We're going to call it below light. So you're going to check and change the light below. Similar to what you're doing here, I'll give you a hint. We've already defined row above. You can reuse that variable if you want, or it'd be better if you just created your own variable there. So should personally take you very little time to do this, but if you have any questions, let me know. That's your homework. Really hard homework this week. Get that row below. I'm not going to have you work on row lights right and left yet, because that's a whole different ball of wax we got to work with. So, because we're not working with arrays at that point, we're working with an object. So, okay. With that, we're going to say goodbye, Zach. Hopefully, we'll see you live soon, but hopefully the FBI will let you out in time to at least see the end of the school year.